So today we have Dominic Hoepfner, who works at Novartis in Basel. So hi, Dominic. How are you doing today?
Good morning. I'm doing fine, thank you.
Great. So I was just curious about your job. So can you please give us a brief description of your background, what you did before, both professionally and your studies, please?
Sure. So again, my name is Dominic Hoepfner. I'm a Swiss citizen. I grew up near the city of Basel. I've always been curious about the mechanisms of nature. So studying molecular biology at the Biozentrum was kind of a logical step. And then I did my master thesis and also my PhD looking into genotype-phenotype relationships. I did this in yeast, and then I followed on by doing postdoctoral studies in the Netherlands, where I investigated the biogenesis of peroxisomes. And just at that time, I got the offer to actually join Novartis in Basel. This was about the time when the big siRNA hype, kind of the first bubble popped, because there was the notion that there are quite a lot of target effects and it's challenging because of different knockdown efficiencies and kinetics. So the head of research at the time was a strong believer into clean genetics. And at that time, the only model system where you could do clean genetics at a genome-wide scale was yeast. So I had the opportunity to use my yeast knowledge and join industry.
Oh, well, that's super great. So, well, we young researchers are super curious about a typical day in industry. So if you could please walk me through a day at your job, like what you do every day when you arrive at work, what are your tasks?
Okay, well, obviously every day is different, but there are some commonalities. So I think, every day starts with obviously looking into the latest research and into your mails, because you need to learn about other people's projects, what's going on, what's not going so well, what is hot, what is not so good. And then I'm wearing several hats. So I have my own lab, I'm leading a team, I'm co-leading a platform, I'm also in the leadership team. And depending on kind of what's on the agenda, obviously I have different roles. But now looking into my team, it's mostly looking at data, seeing where projects are at, learning about projects in the wider context of the organization, and then thinking, where can we have the best impact with our technology and our know-how to advance drug discovery? So I would describe my role as being mostly an interface. I collect information because Novartis is a big company, and I try to find opportunities where my team, we really can accelerate drug discovery and have an impact and make a difference. And so it's kind of like from the big picture into the small experimental details. And that's also what I really find exciting. I still touch on data, but on the other hand, I also get to see the big picture, and I can help my team then to navigate into the right directions.
All right, that's great. I mean, you're also a teacher sometimes. So what do
Yeah,
you
that's correct.
to your students?
So I always, so this happened already during my studies. There was a lab course happening, and people in the lab where I did my PhD were just asked to participate and help to prepare. I tended to like it so much that I just stayed engaged, even when I did my postdoc and later on in industry. Novartis gave me the opportunity to do that. And so just a few years back, I then wrote my habilitation, and I got the title of professor awarded just last year. So I really enjoy the interactions with students. I think I still learn more from them that they learn from me. Simply by asking questions, you really get new ideas. If you listen carefully, you can learn a lot from simply listening to questions. So I find it I really find it absolutely fantastic. I think also we have a privilege to pass on all the fantastic knowledge that we had the opportunity to learn. And yes, I think it's really rewarding to work with these people. And again, I still benefit a lot myself as well.
All right, that's great. Yeah. Well, our viewers are basically postdocs, PhD students, and some master students. Some of them want to transition into industry. They want to, I don't do research in a private company. We were wondering, which skills do you think these researchers have to develop, like both soft skills and maybe professional skills?
When it comes to the technical skills, obviously that depends a little bit on into which direction you want to go. The only thing I think that generally applies nowadays is it really cannot harm if you can do a little bit of bioinformatics. If you have a little bit of Python knowledge, a little bit of R, that definitely cannot harm. So because, I mean, whatever experiment we do nowadays, we produce so much data, and being able to also analyze that data and contextualize it, I think that's a really important part of what researchers should be capable of doing today. When it comes to the soft skill side, I think obviously your technical expertise is important, but for your career, your soft skill, that's paramount. Because if you join a company, drug discovery, for example, is so complex. The one genius that discovers a new drug, that's a myth. I mean, it's really teamwork. And you can be the best technical expert in your field, but if you can't collaborate with the other teams effectively, you will not be progressing the science. So I think the soft skills is really what will determine how successful you will be in your career in industry. And, you know, that might also be a differentiating factor a little bit from academia, because the academic system, obviously, you have to use your elbows to a certain extent because you need to have a good publication, etc. And there is competition. I understand that, but once you join a company, you have to throw all this overboard, and you really have to adapt to teamwork very quickly.
Do you think soft skills are more important than technical skills? Or it depends on the context, or what do you think about saying one?
Absolutely soft skills. Because technical skills you can learn. I mean, if you're a scientist, you should be learning agile anyhow. But if you lack the soft skills, you will not be effective and not help other teams to progress. So you really need to have good soft skills. You need to have good stakeholder management. You need to be able to work in a matrix environment. You need to be able to influence others to collaborate with you. You need to be able to build trust. All these elements, they're really an absolutely integral part of my workday.
All right. Oh, cool. Now I was wondering, how do you think, or how will you think your job is impacting Novartis and also the society, like in a small scale and a big scale, your specific job?
That's an interesting question. So my team, we're using the CRISPR technology to find novel drug targets, novel entry points into diseases. And as it's really such a fantastic tool for scientists, my aspiration really is to accelerate drug discovery, to find novel and better targets, to be able to tackle diseases for which there is currently no treatment. And that's really my ambition as a scientist and the ambition of my team. For society, I think there I would more tend towards my role as a mentor and teacher. And I think it's really important that scientists have a dialogue with society and explain what they are doing, what they can do, and what they cannot do. I think scientists, we still have this aura of being almighty. And, you know, this can obviously be quite charming, but it's also very dangerous. And in particularly in times like now with the pandemic, I think it's very, very important that we engage in a dialogue with our families, friends, everyone, and really try to contextualize all the stuff we read in newspapers, because we have the scientific backgrounds to really explain what is true, what is not true, and kind of set a balance. And I think that's really a responsibility we scientists all share.
Yeah, and sometimes you want to get technical. You want to explain something very well to non-scientists. And you want them to understand what you know. And I find it difficult. Scientists can do to, well, either convince the relatives that what they say is true, because science is based on evidence. How do you think people can, share science in a nutshell?
It's a skill, but I can just encourage everyone to try, because by trying, you will realize how much you actually really understand of the topic you're trying to explain. If you're getting lost into technical details, then it means you haven't understood the bigger concept. And so actually, that's the best thing you can do. Try to explain your science to your parents that might not have any scientific education, and really listen very actively what questions they have, because they will bring a really new perspective, and it's really rewarding. There is no such thing like a stupid question. They will have the reasons why they ask what they're asking. So listen very carefully. It can really be very enlightening.
All right, great. Well, I think to wrap up this interview, what message would you give to young researchers right now?
Well, first of all, I don't really believe too much in advice, because any advice I can give may have helped me, but a scientist of today will face a different environment, and a job he may have, or she or he may get in the future, might not even exist. But there's a few tips. One thing I would say is always follow your heart. Do those things that you like to do. Don't do things that you think are useful for your career. Because if you do something that you really like and you're in it with your heart, you will do it well. And if you do things well, people will notice, and this will open up opportunities. If you do things that you don't like, usually you don't do them so well. And again, that's just the dead end. So really do what you like to do. Don't evaluate it if, is this good for my career, yes or no. Just follow your heart. Be curious. Beyond that, again, be a teacher. Explain your science. Explain it. Try to explain it to your parents, to your sisters. Share all the knowledge you had the privilege to learn. And that's pretty much it. Be curious.
Oh, great.
And be yourself.
Okay, I have another question that just popped up. Well, some of my classmates, they stopped doing science. They stopped, I don't know why, and they started a master's in either business or management.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them because they didn't want to do science anymore. Do you think they are discouraged somehow, or do you think there is something happening that that is discouraging students to continue this path of research?
I think this is difficult to generalize, but one thing that is obvious is that science can be very frustrating, because the majority of your experiments will not pan out the way you intended them to pan out. So you really need to have you need to be really resistant to frustration to carry on. And second, looking into some academic labs, I don't see an atmosphere of support and mentorship that young people would need. And that can also be very discouraging. And maybe that's another tip I could give to young scientists. Try to get a mentor. Try to get somebody who can give you open feedback, who can provide a different perspective, and ideally also provide a safety net. Because it's those that will jump highest that are not afraid to fall. And so a mentor can be really powerful.
All right. Yeah, thank you for all your answers and for your time. So
this has been a pleasure.
Yeah, for the réseau biotechnology also. So well, thank you very much, and talk to you soon.
Was a pleasure. Have a nice day. Goodbye.